risk factors for COPD exacerbations, your assessment of your patients in your practice. And third, to prescribe effective treatments to reduce COPD exacerbations in your patients. This slide reminds us what the definition of a COPD exacerbation is. It's one of those things that we all know it when we see it, but actually defining it is a little difficult. It's defined very much in a clinical way. It's defined as an acute event characterized by a worsening of the patient's respiratory symptoms. What are the respiratory symptoms? Cough, shortness of breath, sputum production. And those symptoms that are worse are beyond the normal day-to-day variation. You'll notice when you practice and you talk to patients, they'll say, well, today's a bad day and I'm having a little more shortness of breath, or today's a better day, I'm feeling better. But these events are beyond the normal day-to-day variation, and they lead to a change in treatment of the patient. This definition is from the GOLD COPD guidelines. We'll be referring to the GOLD guidelines frequently through the presentation. The website for those guidelines is www.goldcopd.org. Now, what is the impact of these exacerbations on our patients? They're described here. In the center is a patient who has frequent exacerbations compared to a patient who doesn't have many. What about those patients that have frequent exacerbations? Well, they have a faster decline in their lung function over time, so they become more symptomatic even if they don't have exacerbations. They have poorer quality of life. In fact, it's very interesting, the reference that's listed here showed a tremendous worsening of health-related quality of life or health status in patients who had frequent exacerbations. They also have higher hospitalizations, and we know that hospitalizations are very impactful on our patients and on society because they lead to excessive costs for this disease. There's also a higher mortality, especially in patients who have been hospitalized. The 1-year mortality in a patient who's hospitalized for COPD is around 20%. They also, patients who have frequent exacerbations, have greater inflammation in their lungs. So we'll be talking about a lot of factors associated with exacerbation. There's a long list here. I've categorized them into 3 different concepts of risk factors for patients that have exacerbations. The first is clinical features. The second is physiologic markers, and we'll include spirometry here, and some newer evidence about biomarkers. And the third is chest CT scans. And this is all emerging evidence, and you'll see a lot more presentations at national meetings, a lot more abstracts, a lot more posters, a lot more articles about this in the near future. So this is important to follow the literature on this topic. So first, we'll talk about the paper from the New England Journal of Medicine in 2010. This is from the ECLIPSE study. Now, the ECLIPSE study was an observational study, so there's no treatment involved in this trial. The investigators looked at over 2,000 patients that had COPD, and they were observed and followed over a period of 3 years on whatever treatment their physicians decided was appropriate. The inclusion criteria were rather broad to make this a relatively representative sample of patients you might see in your practice. Included an age range from 40 to 75 years old. Patients had to have a history of greater than 10 pack years cigarette smoking, and an FEV1 and FVC showing airflow limitations, some evidence of COPD. So there's some very interesting features of this observational study. The first is just simply to look at how many people had exacerbations during the first year of the trial. You can see in the blue about half the patients had no exacerbations during a year. But you can see that almost half the patients did have an exacerbation, so they're very frequent occurrences, even in this population of patients that was not selected for any reason other than the fact that it just had COPD. You can see the number of patients that had 2 or more exacerbations was almost a quarter of the patients, and about a third of the patients had 1 exacerbation a year. So exacerbations are frequent. Now, this is just during 1-year period. What happens if you follow these people over time, and what are the risk factors for exacerbations? And we'll be exploring those 2 in the next 2 slides. The first is a well-known fact that is highlighted by this article, that is the GOLD stage becomes more severe, and you progress from GOLD 2, GOLD 3 to GOLD 4, meaning worsening spirometry, more severe airflow limitation. as stated by the GOLD guidelines and referenced here, you can see that exacerbations become more frequent. So the more severe the patient's underlying disease, the more frequently they have exacerbations. Now there's several interesting features to highlight here. First, if you look at GOLD stage 2, those are patients that have an FEV1 of greater than 50% of predicted, and that's called moderate COPD. A lot of previous articles have not focused on this group with more moderate disease and usually focused on group 3 and 4. But you can see in the GOLD 2 patients, they still have exacerbations. So no matter how bad the airflow limitation is, patients in all these stages of disease can still have exacerbations. Now there's two bars here. There's a blue bar and a brown bar. The brown bar looks at frequent exacerbations, at the frequency of exacerbations, and the blue bar looks at hospitalizations. You can see as the disease becomes more severe assessed by airflow limitation in GOLD stage, not only are there more percent of patients have exacerbations, but there's more hospitalizations as well. Again, even in GOLD stage 2 patients, about 5 to 6% of those patients have an exacerbation that requires a hospitalization.
Yeah, I think this is profound, Barry. A lot of people consider the patients with moderate disease to be not very symptomatic and to escape most of the features of COPD care. A lot of them are undiagnosed, but yet we see there that they're having exacerbations. That's important stuff.
Yeah. Not only are they undiagnosed and not treated to prevent and reduce exacerbations, but a lot of them are very symptomatic too. And we don't know that because they're not diagnosed.
Exactly.
And so they're undertreated for their shortness of breath as well.
Do a better job in diagnosis.
Absolutely. That's the message. So this study then went on and said, well, there are patients that have exacerbations or none during the first year of the study, and that data is presented here. This is similar to the last slide we saw. 48% of patients had no exacerbation in year 1. And what happens in year 2 and 3? So do patients who have no exacerbations continue to have no exacerbations, or do they develop exacerbations in the future? We've been very focused on patients who have 2 or more exacerbations because those are the most impactful to the patients. The more frequent exacerbations, there are a lot of other important healthcare consequences as well. And what happens to those patients? Do they go on and have continued exacerbations of 2 or more a year, or do they stop having exacerbations? So that issue was addressed in this study. Let me walk you through the slide. In the top graph on the right-hand side of the slide, you see what happened to patients in year 2 who had no exacerbations in the first year. You can see in year 2, the yellow, that's having no exacerbations in the second year. So you have no exacerbations in the first year, you're fairly likely to not have exacerbations, but even if you don't have exacerbations in year 1, you could have them in year 2. Let's focus on those patients who have 2 or more exacerbations in the first year. What happens to them in the second year? You can see that it's pretty frequent that they have 2 or more exacerbations the next year. So the purpose here is to show you that people that have frequent exacerbations are likely going to go on and continue to have them, and so it's important to try to reduce them, and Rich is going to talk about how to reduce exacerbations next. Well, this study also looked at some of the factors, other factors and clinical features associated with frequent exacerbations. This is the odds ratio of having more than 2 exacerbations versus having no exacerbations. And the height of the bar sort of tells you how important that is. If you see the highest bar here, an odds ratio of almost 6 times, that's exacerbation during the previous year. Having exacerbation during the previous year is a very strong, one of the strongest risk factors, in most studies the strongest risk factor for having exacerbation in the next year. Look at the next highest bar with an odds ratio of over 2. That's somewhat unique and somewhat different that this study pointed out, and many of us suspected based on our clinical practice, and that's patients who have a history of gastroesophageal reflux, either being treated for gastroesophageal reflux by their physician or having the symptom of heartburn. So it's important that we look at a lot of other features in our patients to try to decide whether if you impact the gastroesophageal